Most people think cancer starts with bad luck or bad genes. But what if some of the foods sitting in your kitchen right now are creating the exact conditions cancer cells love? And here's the scary part. Some of the worst offenders aren't soda, candy, or fast food. In fact, one of them is considered healthy by millions of people. Today, we're going to break down the everyday foods that may help cancer cells grow, the science behind why they do it, and the simple swaps that can dramatically change the environment inside your body. And make sure you stay until the end because one of the biggest cancer-related food debates has been misunderstood for years. Is red meat really dangerous, or have we been focusing on the wrong culprit all along? The answer may completely change how you look at your diet. Sugary drinks fuel for a cancer-friendly environment. Most people immediately think of soda when discussing sugar, but the real concern extends far beyond soft drinks. Fruit juices, energy drinks, sweetened coffees, sports drinks, and bubble teas can all deliver large amounts of sugar directly into the bloodstream. Large population studies have found links between frequent consumption of sugary beverages and increased risks of several cancers, including breast, colorectal, liver, pancreatic, and biliary tract cancers. Why might this happen? One reason involves a phenomenon known as the Warburg effect, where many cancer cells rely heavily on glucose for fuel. Unlike healthy cells, which efficiently generate energy using oxygen, cancer cells often burn through glucose at extremely high rates. Excessive sugar consumption also increases levels of insulin and insulin-like growth, factor 1, hormones that act as powerful growth signals. Chronically elevated insulin levels may create an environment that encourages abnormal cells to grow and divide more rapidly. Liquid sugar is particularly problematic because it enters the bloodstream quickly, without the fiber that normally slows absorption and promotes fullness. An overlooked concern: arsenic exposure. Some fruit juices, especially apple juice, have occasionally been found to contain traces of inorganic arsenic, a known carcinogen. Rice products can also be a source of arsenic exposure. While the risk from occasional consumption is low, simple practices such as rinsing rice thoroughly and soaking it before cooking may help reduce exposure over time. Ultra-processed foods, more than just empty calories. Ultra-processed foods have become a staple of the modern diet. They include packaged snacks, fast food, processed desserts, sugary breakfast cereals, and many frozen convenience meals. Research has associated higher consumption of ultra-processed foods with increased overall cancer risk, particularly colorectal cancer. The problem isn't necessarily one ingredient. It's the combination of several harmful effects: frequent blood sugar spikes, elevated insulin levels, chronic low-grade inflammation, disruption of the gut microbiome, and reduced intake of protective nutrients. Many ultra-processed foods also contain additives such as emulsifiers, which may negatively affect gut health and intestinal barrier function. Perhaps most importantly, these foods often crowd out healthier options. The more room processed foods occupy on your plate, the less room remains for vegetables, fruits, legumes, and other nutrient-dense foods that provide fiber and cancer-protective compounds. Salt has been used to preserve food for centuries, but, excessive intake may come with consequences. Studies have linked diets high in heavily salted or preserved foods to an increased risk of stomach cancer. High concentrations of salt can damage the stomach lining, leading to chronic irritation and inflammation. Some preserved foods may also contain nitrosamines, compounds capable of damaging DNA and, potentially contributing to cancer development. This connection may help explain why stomach cancer has historically been more common in regions where salted and preserved foods are dietary staples. Few nutrition topics generate as much controversy as red meat and cancer risk. One important point often gets lost in public discussions. Processed meat and unprocessed red meat are not the same thing. Processed meats, like bacon, sausages, hot dogs, deli meats, and ham, have much stronger evidence of harm. Health organizations consistently report links between processed meat consumption and colorectal cancer. These products often contain nitrates and nitrites used for preservation, and inside the stomach, these compounds can form nitrosamines, known carcinogens that can damage DNA. As a result, processed meats have earned one of the strongest cancer warnings from international health authorities. Now, when it comes to unprocessed red meat, the picture is a bit more complex. The evidence here is less clear. Observational studies often find associations between high red meat consumption and certain cancers, especially colorectal cancer, but the relationship is weaker than it is for processed meats. One challenge is that nutrition research is just inherently complicated. People who eat a lot of red meat may also have different lifestyles. exercise habits, vegetable intake, and overall dietary patterns. Plus, since cancer develops over decades, conducting long-term controlled dietary trials is extremely difficult. Researchers, therefore, rely heavily on observational studies, which can identify patterns but can't really prove cause and effect. So, the takeaway? Moderate consumption of unprocessed red meat appears very different from frequent consumption of processed meats. If there's one nutrient that consistently emerges as protective against colorectal cancer, it's fiber. Fiber helps regulate blood sugar, improve insulin sensitivity, support healthy digestion, feed beneficial gut bacteria, and reduce inflammation. When gut bacteria ferment fiber, they produce compounds such as butyrate, which help maintain the health of the colon and may protect against cancer development. Interestingly, some research suggests that fiber may even offset certain risks associated with red meat consumption. In one study, participants consuming large amounts of red meat showed increased markers of DNA damage in the colon. However, when resistant starch, a special type of fiber, was added to their diet, those markers returned to normal levels. Excellent sources of resistant starch include beans and lentils, green bananas, cooked and cooled potatoes, and whole grains. This finding really highlights an important lesson: foods rarely act in isolation. The overall dietary pattern often matters more than any single ingredient. Even healthy foods can become problematic when prepared improperly. When meat is grilled, charred, fried, or barbecued at very high temperatures, it can produce compounds called heterocyclic amines, HCAs, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs. Both have been linked to DNA damage and increased cancer risk. Fortunately, there are ways to reduce your exposure. Here are a few smart cooking tips. Pre-cook meat before grilling to reduce time over high heat. Use marinades containing herbs, garlic, onions, vinegar, or lemon juice. Avoid excessive charring. Choose leaner cuts of meat and limit sugary marinades that burn easily. Small changes in preparation can significantly reduce the formation of potentially harmful compounds. When it comes to cancer prevention, there's no single superfood and no single food that guarantees disease. What matters most is the overall environment you create inside your body. A diet built around whole foods, vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, healthy fats, and fiber-rich carbohydrates supports healthier blood sugar control, reduces inflammation, nourishes the gut microbiome, and helps maintain a stronger defense against disease. Meanwhile, frequent consumption of sugary beverages, ultra-processed foods, heavily salted foods, and processed meats may gradually push the body toward conditions that cancer cells are more likely to exploit. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. Every meal is an opportunity to influence the internal environment where health or disease takes root, and over the course of years and decades, those choices can add up in powerful ways. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone that might need these informations.